Hello, everybody. Welcome back to 17 and some change. I'm AccuDes17, and I'm here to bring you my 2 cents. Happy Wednesday. Happy Hump Day. Here in my neck of the woods, we're having the third cloudy day in a row. So, what does that mean? Well, that just means that we're going to get hit with 94-degree temperatures in like a few days. So it's gonna be melting us soon around here. Hey, I hope everybody's doing well. Um, just recently I applied for and obtained um my LLC. Um, I went through, if any of y'all are thinking about, trying to form your own or anything like that, I went through LegalZoom. It was a pretty straightforward process. Um, I just answered a few questions for them. Um, Gave them a lot of money, and within less than a month, my LLC was official. I received um, all the confirmations, but they also sent uh, one of these things, like a binder, and they'll engrave like your business on it. They sent me this binder. It has um, like just like startup documentation and things like that, and it has little nifty like membership ledgers and operating agreements and different things like that. And it's cool. I mean, it's all available digitally. um you don't even have to get this package or whatever, but you know um i I like LegalZoom. They take a very complex portion of life, and they don't try to. I don't. They're a legitimate company. I like working with legitimate companies. You know, Especially legitimate companies whose aim is to simplify the complex. So I like legal zooms. I like H&R blocks. You know what I mean? Like y'all already know, I'm more of the creative type. I'm more of the visionary. You start bogging me down with you know, specific details and letters of the law type shit. So um yeah, that's pretty cool if anybody's thinking about doing legal type stuff or formatting different things. I like Legal Zoom. I wanted to just so y'all know, not to bury the lead. I mean, I'm already like 4 or 5 minutes in. So this episode is ultimately like the main thing that we're going to talk about on this episode is borderline personality disorder. So we're going to have a Q&A on that, so stay tuned for that. um I do want to talk about quickly, um not my my philosophy on sexuality. Um, I just wanted to touch on something real quickly because if any of you do follow my Instagram is dedicated to artistic expression of philosophical and relationship type concepts. Um, and so um, there is um, a large range of topics that are covered. There is a large range of expressions that are a large range of um, expressions. Um, so, for instance, on one day, you might find a post praising or exonerating or lifting, um, exalting. That's what I wanted to say. Um, holy type concepts or biblical type concepts or spiritual type concepts, right? And then the next day, you will see me posting um, some kind of chick doing some kind of dance, some kind of bunny shaking her butt. But and that's just the dichotomy of existence that I capture with my brand, right? Personally, I lean more towards monogamy. I don't necessarily like promiscuity, promiscuity. I don't like casual hookups. That's not my lane. Um, but will I appreciate um, the aesthetic appeal to a chick who has clear swagger and is doing a sexy dance or something like that? Yeah, yeah, I'll appreciate the shit out of that. If some girl has some rhythm to some music and is being really sexy about it, it is what it is. That's gonna get shared. That's artistic to me. To me, that's artistic. And um, but yeah, I just wanted to touch on that. Like, you will see that dichotomy under my brand, or under the Acudez umbrella. Um, the Acudez umbrella is meant to capture, the dichotomy of life, the spectrum of life. So, um, I definitely don't want to stay on the next topic too long. Only because it's not really something. I mean, there's levels of research that you can do on anything, but I just actually found out something new yesterday. Um, and so brace yourselves real quick. Um, so we're familiar with 9/11. I think most of us are familiar with 9/11 to some extent, and I was in middle school when that event took place, so I have a decent firsthand recollection of the events of the of yeah. Um so apparently, so you had the two towers collapse, and then there was, another incident um with the Pentagon, and then there was another plane that was hijacked but crashed into a field. Um, but I never really heard about World Trade Center 7. I mean, maybe I have heard about it, but it never stuck out. to me. It felt like yesterday it stuck out to me for the first time. World Trade Center 7 apparently was a 48, 49 story um, building that was next to the two main towers, and um, this building housed various CIA offices and various accounting, like major banks and um, things of that nature. So apparently that building like collapsed as well on 9/11, and it wasn't hit by a plane, but it collapsed in the same manner as the first two towers. It imploded on itself. It crumbled into itself. Um, with no plane. Um, they said it was the fire. They said it was the fire melted the beams. I guess the same way the fire melted the beams in the first two buildings, and yeah, yeah, and that's for three buildings to collapse downwards onto themselves all the same effing way. I mean, what? Like, that's how buildings fall now. Apparently, with that 48, 49 story with World Trade Center 7, apparently that's like they say the first time a building has ever collapsed like that. Um that they know of from fire. From fire. Like, okay. And then another strange thing is the fact that the BBC was live on air, and this clip is still available on YouTube. Um, Apparently CNN too, live on air, but mainly the real one that that I can confirm because I've seen with my own eyes. I heard the same thing was applicable to CNN. CNN ran the same situation, but I saw the BBC one with my eyeballs, and yeah, they're talking about the building 7 that collapsed behind them, um, yet it was still standing. And 26 minutes after the broadcast is when the building actually collapses. And so I'm just like, dog, like if that if those were like controlled demolitions, like if that was an inside job, because the JFK assassination is starting now to lean more towards it being an inside job, right? Now, more people will tell you that it was an inside job than the amount of people that would tell you that it probably wasn't, right? So if we're saying like, okay, so 50, 60 years ago, they did that, the JFK thing, and then 25 years ago they did the 9/11 thing, and it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then if you want to throw COVID onto that, you can throw COVID onto that. Um, you don't have to, because just the first two are wild enough. Um, but that's just nuts. So especially if you lump all three together in like grand world shattering uh uh events that were actually staged, it's like, oh man, damn, what is going on? But and I don't know. And then maybe this is just recency bias. I'm not much of a historian I like history. Like, tell me a story. Like, history is his story. Like, tell me a story for sure. I'll listen, and I'll um compare, and I'll but I wonder, like, if previous centuries had, you know three massive conspiracies within the course of 75 years. And so I think it's probable. It's probable. I'd have to recheck it, but recheck it. Like, I'd have to look into that. But that's just like, damn, man. And they won't declassify the 9/11 documents, like, whatever. Um Anyways, I digress. Um Before they put a hit on me or something. But thankfully, I'm not saying anything that, like, nobody else has said or nobody else is saying. I think Tucker Carlson was just talking about this a year ago, so I should be good. Um, I can't prove nothing. It's not like I'm putting out documents or video, or something that, like, definitively proves anything. It's not like I'm implicating any specific people. I'm just saying, yo, check this out. Don't that look like an inside job? What do you think that means? Um, but yeah, so they want me to take a personality test in college. Well, not just me. They want us, they want the class to take a personality test for our college assignment. And so I'm just like, a lot of the assignments that we do in psych um is very personal. And so, of course, I'm over here thinking, like, oh, what if these guys are putting together some kind of profile? What if they're making a profile on me, and then they're gonna program that profile into a humanoid AI robot or something? Ha 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 ha. But yeah, personality test. I will see what it says for me, because as far as I am concerned, I am a self-aware borderline. Um, and so personality kind of takes on an entirely different meaning, when we're talking about somebody with personality disorders, right? When we're talking about a borderline, when we're talking about a narcissist, um, or a cluster B type, um, then the idea of personality takes on a whole different meaning, right? So with that being said, that's my segue into a Q&A that I that I have, um, that I set up prior to this recording. Um, yeah. So let's talk about BPD a little bit. Let's talk about BPD. Um, and like I said, we'll do it in this format. It says to me, it asks me, um, says, in your own words, what do you believe is the core emotional experience of someone living with borderline personality disorder? Um, and I said it was one of intensity and volatility. Um, and this is maybe part of the reason that I'm drawn to marijuana. This is part of the reason that I do try to keep an even keel on the outside, because of the excessive, uh, volatility on the inside, right? I try to create peace for myself, both in the way I talk to myself and in the environments and situations that I put myself in, because I know that, um, there is an intensity and volatility brewing, just beneath the surface that, um, I gotta watch out for, right? Um, and then it says, how does BPD affect the way you experience relationships, especially close ones like romantic partners, friends, or even coworkers? And I admitted that it's a whirlwind. I typically I see people based on how I feel that particular day. Um, you know, yeah, particular day. They say, perception is reality, but that's even more so the case with me as it pertains to relationships. Um, I have been getting better, um since gaining an awareness of what's going on. I have been getting better at, you know, um looking at the complexities and the maybes and the what ifs, um when I'm starting to view somebody as bad or view somebody as good. I try to look in between the lines and at the gray areas, and try not to paint somebody black or paint somebody white, like, um you know but it's still a struggle. It's always like, how do I feel about this person today? How do I feel about this person this hour? How do I feel about this person this moment? And I try to maintain an underlying narrative about the people I associate with, and try to continuously reference that. Um, like, no, this is just Sam, and that's Sam is my coworker, and one of the things that Sam likes to do is X, Y, and Z, and they're not a bad person. I try to look at people eclectically, and in their roles, um, if that makes sense. Um, I try to use empirical data, so to speak. I try to use like past behaviors to um gauge the intentions and stuff, and that's not different than normal. You know what I mean? But I just try to understand, and that is something I've gotten better at, is I try to understand that maybe the way that I'm feeling towards a person at that particular moment isn't the way that I feel about them overall. Maybe it's not the way that I'm gonna feel about them permanently. Now, with that being said, there's a lot of people that I do reflect on after much deliberation, and I realize, like, no, like, nine times out of 10, I dislike this person. So I dislike this person. There are plenty of people. I am super in tune to like what narcissism looks like, what narcissism feels like, what narcissism is. I can, so, you know, um, it's not all about feelings with me. Um, there is some discernment happening for sure. I can know that somebody is a good person and then get mad at them and still not paint them entirely black. Um, Even if I feel like I'm heading towards doing that. Um, though, even with the people that I think have the best intentions, there are certain behaviors, which is normal, but there are certain behaviors that if I see somebody engage in, it'll change my entire perception of them. Yeah. So then it asks, how do you typically respond to perceived rejection or abandonment, even if it's subtle or unintentional? And I said, I mean, it depends on who the rejection or abandonment is coming from and why. If it's somebody who I deem to be a stupid person, like an immature person, um, then I'll just say, That's fine. That's a stupid person." Like that's, um, but you know, if it's somebody that I semi like or somebody that I semi trust, it does feel like that proverbial knife being twisted around in the chest. It does make me feel like a jack o' lantern during Halloween time. Just getting carved out like this hollowing of your chest, like right here. It's like, you know what I mean? Rejection slash abandonment by somebody who I trusted. Ouch, my soul is being sucked out of my chest. Like yeah, it's not a good feeling. It's not fun for sure. It says, all right, what's one misconception people have about BPD that you wish they better understood? Keeping in um keeping congruency with my past self, I'm going to say next question. Um, because when they asked me that about ADHD, I said next question. Um, do you ever find it difficult to know who you really are, or feel like your identity shifts depending on your environment or who you're around? Yeah. Um, and that's yeah, I've been exploring that for a little while now. Um, Everybody is, slightly, I think it's normal for individuals to be um, a product of their environment, but, to what extent is the question. Um, I, to, and where is the common thread? Can you find a common thread? I feel like I am um extremely susceptible to mood and environment and people um influencing my mindset and therefore pretty much changing my personality. Um, you know, I often try to think of um beliefs, like core beliefs that I have, and see if I still hold onto those core beliefs when I'm in these various self states. Um, and some of the most important ones I do, regardless of self state. Um, you know, some of the ideas like, you know, don't um don't find pleasure in um screwing or hurting other people, like that, regardless of of my self state, holds true. Like, um you know not wanting the suffering of others, like that always reigns true regardless of self state, you know. So I think these things are important. I mean, unless we're talking about like kink and stuff like that, then it's different. Um and then but yeah, no, like the fact that I can watch a clip and feel the intensity of the universe in that clip, and then watch the same clip 2 weeks later and feel nothing. Um, yeah, I mean that's worthy of note for sure. You know. Do you ever feel guilty or ashamed after emotional outbursts, even if you know they were triggered by something very real to you? I said, typically I don't. I understand that I'm an emotional individual. I do my best to keep those emotions under wraps. Um, I feel like I actually do a better job than most people in society today. Um, and I also feel like sensitivity is a strength, not a weakness. You know, I don't mind, bawling my eyes out over a tragedy or flipping out on a harasser, you know. Um, strategically, because if somebody can control your emotions, they can kind of control you. Well, they say that, but if you use your anger to intimidate, then those people who would use your anger against you typically back off. Um, but anyways, what's one healthy coping mechanism or mindset that's helped you manage your BPD symptoms more effectively? I said creating space for myself. That helps a lot. I feel a lot lighter, less stressed, and less emotionally volatile the less I involve myself with people. I focus on things. Um, I focus on creations, and I focus on myself. Um, I mean, I'm still team human. I still find humans fascinating. And I still do what I can to help humanity. And I want the best for humanity. Um, but I need space. Another thing that helped me cope was learning that I have more rights than I thought I had in regards to social interactions. Um, 5 years ago, I did not realize that I have the right to ignore people. And so do you. 5 years ago, I did not realize that I don't owe anybody anything unless I sign up to owe them something. Right? You don't owe anybody anything unless you've explicitly given them your word, not under duress, that you would do something. And and that's that. You know what I mean? You have every right to mind your own business. You have every right to not uh, get caught up in other people's emotions, in other people's visions for you. Um, you have every right to have your own goals, your own dreams, your own space, all of that. You know, not everybody has to like you as well. You know, so yeah, and you have a responsibility to yourself. You um you put yourself as a higher some people need to put themselves as a higher priority than they already do, and not in a narcissistic way, but in a um self-preservation type way. you know um like I like what GPT said here. It because it rhymes. GPT says, boundaries aren't rejection, they're protection. You know what I mean? But yeah, we're all entitled to having our boundaries. I was sitting with a chick um some time ago, and we were talking about like toxic parents, and she had PTSD from her toxic parents, and to her that was the key. The key word was boundaries. you know and you tell them, or you just create them, like, I'm not going to stay here for more than an hour. And then you don't, and that's that. And if they don't like it, you could tell them up front, whatever it is. And if they don't like it, that's kick rocks, kick rocks, and so that's just that. um and then finally, last but not least, it says, um to wrap it up, it says, if somebody listening thinks they might have BPD, what would you say to them, not as a clinician, but as somebody who lives with it? Um, and it's like, I would tell you that you're not crazy. Um, I would tell you that you're not crazy, that you should find some space for yourself and really dig into things that ignite your emotions. Um, Harness the negative ones into productive activities. If you're an angry borderline, harness that into sports. But yeah, just find activities that trigger your emotions. And I didn't mean the word trigger, but yeah, but like, find things that you're um emotionally drawn to, and get all those emotions out on those things. Um but yeah, so thank you guys for tuning in, for watching this episode, and I gotta get some groceries. I think I'm gonna make a steak and cheese steak and cheese sandwiches. I'm gonna get like some steakums and saute some onions and some peppers with some cheese, and then make some French fries with that, and should be fun. Should be good. So y'all have a good day. Y'all have a good week. I will see you next Wednesday. And I don't mean like literally see you. You'll do more of seeing me. And even though most of the views that I get don't come like on Wednesday itself, still, still, I will still say that. So y'all take care of yourselves, okay? Goodbye.